You hope so? Okay. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Mike Slack. That's S as in Sam, not F as in Frank, or B as in Bonnet, or D as in Dad. Mike Slack. I work for Hague Software. I'm the Director of Business Development, and I've got a presentation today called Starting a DevOps Conversation. As I've gotten into the tech world and I've started to work with Hague Software, we're a DevOps and integration consultancy. One of the first things that people always ask me when I go talk to people, whether they're technologists or not, is like, what is DevOps? And how do you translate what DevOps is to a non-technologist audience? And so that's a little bit about what I'm going to try to do today. And then how do you talk with a technologist and a non-technologist about the state of your DevOps? And so that's the goal of this talk, is to how do you start that conversation? And so DevOps, from my understanding, is an approach that aims to unify software development and IT operations. But not just that, you're trying to unify information technology and your business objectives. What are you actually trying to achieve with your business? And when you achieve, and then ultimately, then your company is going to be unified with your customers. So you're going from software development, IT infrastructure, and using approaches that eventually serve your customers. And in addition, DevOps is associated with all these different practices: test-driven development, automated testing, microservices, infrastructure as code, et cetera, et cetera. And when you start putting that all together, to me, it just kind of seems like DevOps is just a rock-solid approach to software development. It's just a great rock-solid approach to how you do software development. And so one problem, and maybe one thing to talk about in your company, wherever you work, I don't know if everyone at the company they work feels like they have a rock-solid approach to software development. If you've got your coworkers in here, I don't know, you can look at each other, you can give me a nod. Do you guys have a rock-solid approach to software development? Or how would you even know, right? What's the measure of what awesome software development is? So does your company have a rock-solid approach? Do they think they do? And if they don't, how do you communicate that to leadership or other members of your team? How do you start a conversation that there's a better way to do software? So we've kind of come up with this really basic two-step approach, and we wanted to test out this idea with all of you all today. One, identify the symptoms of unhealthy DevOps practice. What are things you can look at and see and point to, and really objectively and say, okay, this is keeping us from having a really healthy practice. And then two, paint a picture of a better way. And so we've come up with a really simple tool that we're going to call a health check, that's going to ask you 4 questions. And the answer to those 4 questions are going to be actual quantitative things that you can point to that either talk about how fast are you putting software into your runtime environment, and how often is it breaking? How often is your software broken? And so those 4 questions are right here. We've also put this on our website, and I would love if during the talk, if you wanted to go to hague.software/healthcheck and fill this out yourself, you can. It's going to send this information to us, and I'll reply to you with basically a grade, and I'll tell you how I calculate that at the end of this. So how frequently do you successfully deploy code? How long does it take for you to deploy code? Once a month or longer, once every 2 weeks, once a week? Or are you doing it once a day or on demand? That's question 1. Question 2, how long does it take or how much lead time do you need before you're able to successfully deploy code? What's your throughput? Do you need a month to decide I'm going to deploy code and then it's in your environment, or can you do it in less than an hour? Where are you in your organization? For the primary application you work on, how long does it take to restore service when an unplanned incident occurs? So when things go down, how long does it take you to get back up? And then the last question is, what percentage of changes that you make to your system result in something breaking? Is it 0% of the time, or is it 41% or more, or where do you fall within that scale? If you guys want to, please, I'd encourage you to fill that out, because what we're going to do is we're going to measure that against what DORA, which is the DevOps Research Assessment Company, and Puppet put together the State of DevOps report. And so they've given us a very, very good sense, based on surveys of hundreds and thousands of IT professionals, what high IT performers are able to do. And they define high IT performers as those people whose IT is helping them to meet their business objectives. So high IT performers can deploy on demand, multiple deploys per day. Medium IT performers are doing once per week, somewhere between once per week and once per month, and low IT performers are the same, but at the lower end of that scale. Lead time for changes, high IT performers need less than an hour. Low IT performers, again, down to 1 week and a month. Mean time to recovery, less than an hour. So like Slack went down the other day, and it was down, and it was awful, it was horrible, but they were back within about an hour, right? But low IT performers, that'd be anywhere between a day and a week. And then change failure rate for high IT performers, 0 to 15%, low IT performers, 31 to 45%. What we see when our consultants are working with companies is that most folks deploy once per quarter or once per month. A lot of the companies that we wind up working with, which is probably why they need to work with us in the first place. How does this sound to you and where the company that you work at? Are you guys just fantastic IT performers and you're deploying code daily, or are you needing a day or a week or a month to deploy? Once a month? It's a mix? Anybody else? A few times a week? We deploy quickly, but meantime recovery is not always great. So in the State of DevOps report, thanks everybody for sharing that. State of DevOps report, they track year over year how the IT performers who are high and low compare to each other. And between 2014 and 2017, the distance between high and low IT performers has just skyrocketed. And so your super high performers, your Netflix and your Amazon, are deploying thousands of times per day. But even a company that's not a Netflix or an Amazon that's still a high performer like Etsy reports deploying 80 times per day. For change lead time, the highest performers are deploying 440 times faster than the lowest performers. So the high performers, use lead times of 60 minutes for a change. Low performers, 43,800 minutes. Big difference. Same thing you can see with stability, mean time to recovery, and then change failure rate. Several of these have gotten wider in the last couple of years, meaning the high performers are performing that much better compared to the low performers. Ultimately, what this does is it helps the new or the high-performing IT companies to deploy new services more quickly and create a bigger wedge or bigger gap between them and their competition. So the point of this talk is similar to a point that Socrates made a long time ago, which is the unexamined life isn't worth living. And I would extrapolate to say that the unexamined IT infrastructure isn't worth using. To know yourself and then know where you want to be and know that there are folks out there deploying multiple times per day or thousands of times per day, and that there's a path to get there. So that's my talk. Thoughts? Questions?
Yeah, where can we get that State of DevOps report, and when is it?
Okay, State of DevOps report, number of places you can get it. If you go to hague.software/healthcheck, I really would encourage you to fill this out. We're trying to use this to get a sense around the community, like what is standard here in Oklahoma City and within this community. And there's a link to it right here on the what is the health check section down there at the bottom, 2017 State of DevOps report.
They put that out annually, right?
Yep. All right. Thank you very much.